Let's kind of dive into the herbal medicine component.
Sure.
So I'm curious to know more about specific herbs for postpartum healing that you're a big fan of, and then also are there any that you recommend women avoid?
Sure. Yeah. I usually focused on a couple things in postpartum in regards to herbal medicine. First of all, herbal medicine should be taken with intention. So I don't necessarily give everybody the same herbs across the board. I really take into consideration what occurred in the birth, what they're needing, what their previous medical history is, if they have any issues, if they have a thyroid issue, if they have anything like that, if they're on any medication. So all of these things need to be considered. But in general, I like to focus on, if you had a vaginal birth, any tears, so baths and things that are going to help knit the skin back together.
A sitz bath?
A sitz bath, exactly.
Do you know what a sitz bath
I
is?
do not.
So basically, a sitz bath is an herbal bath that promotes healing postpartum.
For your undercarriage?
Yes.
What would be, herbs would be associated with that? What would you put in that bath?
Sure. Yes. So I would put in any herbs that are promoting skin tissue regeneration and also keeping the area clean, which is obviously very important. So things like witch hazel, lavender, rose, yarrow, lemon balm, shepherd's purse. Usually they're in the baths. There's a lot in there.
Sounds delicious.
Yeah. So that's another thing we can dive into when we talk about herbs to avoid. Some are topical, some are internal. But to go back to the other question, herbs I focus on in addition to the ones to promote healing after a vaginal birth is iron and minerals. Those are usually so depleted from pregnancy, and everybody bleeds a certain amount in birth, and there could be excessive bleeding in some cases. So focusing on minerals and iron is extremely important, and it could really help things like emotional health. Like if you feel super anemic, you can feel bad mentally as well. So those herbs, I would recommend yellow dock, nettles, alfalfa, red clover. A lot of these herbs are actually used as cover crops to put nitrogen back into the ground. So it's so interesting how nature mimics our bodies, and we are a part of nature because it does the same thing in our bodies.
Yeah. Wow.
Yeah.
Would we just brew these as a tea?
Well, and you have shared a tea recipe with us, your herbal mineral tea, that I believe does include a lot of these herbs.
Exactly. Yes, it includes everything I mentioned, actually. These are my favorite ones, and these are all definitely green flag herbs, safe. These are very, very safe. These are safe for kids, pets. These are they have no counter indications, so anybody could take them. And then the third thing that I focus on is lactation. So if you are breastfeeding, there's so many components of breastfeeding, and a lot of it is supply and demand and biological, having baby on you and feeding. But there are some herbs that can assist in building the blood to make the milk and different things like that. So for that, I like milky oat tops.
Aptly named.
Yes, exactly. Milky oat tops. And again, any of those mineral herbs are great for the blood. Yellow dock has been used by ancient cultures for centuries, specifically for iron in pregnancy and postpartum. So that's kind of one of my all-star herbs that I love to use. Yes.
I love that. Well, let's really kind of hone in on mental health. I know you had mentioned some experiences you'd had with new moms and kind of witnessing their mental health journey postpartum. So I'm just curious to kind of hear more about your perspective on postpartum mental health and how we can support new mothers, how nutrition, how herbs can help in supporting mental health, because it's such a big topic. And a statistic that really blew me away, which I think I may have shared on the show before, is that suicide is actually the leading cause of death in the first year postpartum for new mothers, which is so sad and so tragic.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Wow.
It's awful, but I think it goes back to what you were talking about with that lack of support and just the way our culture has changed. And a lot of factors, but we would just love to hear your perspectives on maternal mental health.
Totally. After all these years, I've seen many, many different journeys and experiences with mental health, and I have to say that the number one issue that brings these on is lack of support. It really, really is. Isolation, lack of support, and that could look like not eating enough, having nobody to cook you a meal. Because realistically, postpartum, you're not going to be standing at the kitchen cooking. Like, it's not something that is realistic. So that support.
And just to like highlight that, I remember it might have even been a whole week postpartum that our fridge was like out of order, and I came out to the kitchen and like sat in a chair and like directed my mom on kind of like how to clean and organize the fridge.
Yep.
And I mean, like, that's where I was at. I couldn't do that myself. Like, all I could do was sit on a chair and be like, that goes there.
Yeah.
Like, you know, so it gets really real. And if you're alone in that and you don't have support, I mean, it's,
Yes, especially for our first time moms too. It's just like such a new experience. And like you said, our culture is very different, where we might not even have friends or close family that have had children, and we haven't been a part of that experience of them having children. So it's just like so brand new. Nobody knows anything. So it's very shocking and jarring. A lot of things can be done to prevent this. Like we mentioned before, like the meal train, or having like a very safe person come and visit for an X amount of time, like an hour, 2 hours, you know, in the first couple of weeks. Visiting can take a lot out of you energetically, but sometimes having a safe person just to listen to you, and if you need to have a little cry or whatever you need, it could be really beneficial. Also, something that I always recommend is people sitting in the sun, getting some sunlight. Sometimes you're just like stuck in bed for days at a time, and a little sunshine can give you some dopamine and feel really, really good. And then, of course, herbal medicine. I find this is a huge help in this area. And there's a lot of safe herbs for breastfeeding and postpartum that you could use for your mental health that are very gentle. My favorite is lemon balm. I love lemon balm. It's a nervous system. It's a nervine, so it works within the nervous system. And it helps relax you, make you a little sleepy. That's also something that happens if you have anxiety, you're not sleeping as well, and it's like this cyclical thing that's happening with the mental health. So, you know, a little tea before bed, chamomile, lemon balm tea before bed. If there is more like panic sensations and you need something a little bit stronger, I recommend skullcap. Skullcap is really great for exactly what it sounds like. It kind of like stops your mind from thinking. Which is really nice. Also, catnip is great. It relaxes smooth muscle tissue, so it kind of relaxes the body. So having like a mental relaxer and a physical relaxer.
My mind did like a free association when you said catnip to that Will Ferrell Saturday Night Live where he's like being a cat.
Oh my gosh, yeah. Those were good SNL days.
Those were.
Yeah.
You know, I like that you mentioned postpartum anxiety too, because I feel like the buzzword is postpartum depression. But I know for myself, I experienced a lot of anxiety. I remember having like intrusive thoughts about like how little and helpless my son was, and I was terrified of like dropping him on the tile, and I didn't want to like hand him to my husband because I was afraid that like he would drop him on the tile. And just like the intensity of that anxiety. And I don't think I really realized how much my anxiety was affecting me until it was like in retrospect, I was like, I think I had really bad postpartum anxiety.
Yes, that is what I see most often. Postpartum depression, I actually don't see that often. That kind of presents itself of like, I don't want to get out of bed. I don't even want to take care of my baby. That is depression.
Well, and like, how is depression different from like baby blues? Is that a thing?
That's a great question. Yes. So there's a natural free fall in the first 2 weeks where your hormones are resettling. So there might be some big releases, like you might spill your glass of water and just like start crying. Yeah, it's just like, and you're like, I don't even know why I'm crying. And that's a normal hormone regulation. And we want to allow those functions of the body to do what they need to do and hold space for that too, which is, again, community based. Like, you know, having someone say, it's okay, cry, it's totally fine, let it go. So that's the first 2 weeks. If things are progressing in getting also like worse after those 2 weeks, that's something to look into. There's also a lot of amazing mental health therapists, perinatal mental health therapists that are super supportive for postpartum moms. And anxiety is is different, obviously. It's more not sleeping, intrusive thoughts. And I have to say, like, almost every single one of my clients has intrusive thoughts. Like, definitely. It's very normal, or common, I should say. And talking about it, I think, demystifies it, and kind of, having those thoughts, it could even scare you that you're even having those thoughts.
Yeah, what's wrong with me? Am I crazy? And then if you can't talk about it and you've got shame and stigma,
yes,
they say that people who actually talk about having suicidal thoughts are much less likely to act on them than people who don't share that.
100%.
So do you have any like either resources or recommendations for women who are struggling postpartum in terms of like how they can help themselves, what they can do, who they could reach out to?
Yes, yeah, I have a couple amazing therapists here in LA. Also, there's a lot of mom groups that I always recommend people, that it can even be on Zoom, and it's not necessarily like baby focused, it's mom focused. It's like, wow, today sucked, and like I need to just cry, and it's almost like group therapy, like sharing. So I recommend that, and I can give you details of people that you can maybe like put in the description of like resources. I have like amazing people here in LA that I work with. And I think, like we were saying before, preparing can really help your mental state postpartum. So making sure you have this plan, you have a community, whether it's your family, your friends, or somebody you hire if that's available to you, I would really recommend that. And then just giving yourself grace and just allowing and surrendering and really just being present with your emotions instead of kind of like stifling them and being like, everything's fine. They're like,
I can do it all by myself.
Exactly. That's a big one. Yeah.
Don't.
It's not a good idea.
Is there anything we have not touched upon today that you would like to touch upon or share before we wrap up?
I think we covered a lot. I will say, if anybody is interested in herbal medicine, I have a course coming out at the end of this month that dives into herbs for pregnancy and postpartum. So we really get into the nitty-gritty, and I really feel like knowledge is power and confidence is power when working with herbs. So I encourage anybody who's interested to check that out, and I can give you my socials and website and everything like that.
Definitely put everything below, for sure.
Absolutely. And if you want to share your website or your socials here, you're welcome to do that too.
So on TikTok and Instagram, I'm at Sacred Doula, and my website is laurenaliciadoula.com.
Amazing. Yes. Thank you so much for joining us today and sharing all this.
Yeah.
Thank you for joining us, and we look forward to hearing your comments and your thoughts, your experiences. I hope this information has been helpful, and we will see you next time here on Dancing in the Kitchen.
Dance, dance, dance.